1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Well, he did, but that makes his entire journey seem very noble, when in reality it's anything except that. Christopher Columbus came to an island that was already inhabited, betrayed and enslaved the natives, and then claimed that he discovered the island. Well, he had good intentions, though. He was just looking for the 3 Gs, God, Gold, and Glory. So were other explorers like Ponce de Leon, Francisco Coronado, and Hernando de Soto. And eventually came the English colonies, starting with Roanoke, the failed attempt at colonization, and 1607's Jamestown, which ended up becoming stable. But as England grew, so did tensions. As colonists began to realize that they didn't need England taxing everything they did, various acts of rebellion started to break out, like the Boston Tea Party, in which England had a lot of its taxed tea thrown in the Boston harbor. This also includes the Boston Massacre, in which English redcoat soldiers shot and killed 5 colonists and injured 6 more. There was also the Stamp Act created by King George that decreed the taxing of all legal papers made by colonists. They realized that they had no representation in Parliament, but still have to put up with the tax and such of a represented citizen in Britain. And as the final straw, the colonists declared independence with the Declaration of Independence. And this, which ended England's possession of the colonies, led to the American Revolution. The newly named Americans rise up against their oppressors in revolt. War sprang forth. And though Britain had more soldiers, stronger equipment, and better men, America had a couple advantages. The first, a knowledge of the land they were fighting on. This lets them take maximum advantage of their second advantage, guerrilla warfare tactics. Special tactics and strategies were employed by the U.S., and this led us to victory against Britain after many years of combat. And this led to the ratification of the Constitution, the law of the land, the document that still holds true and outlines the basic powers of the government, as well as explaining how the government works. The Constitution was signed and approved by 39 of the 55 delegates from around the new country. People who were for the ratification were called Federalists, and people who were against ratification were called Anti-Federalists. The Northwest Ordinance was the next major event to occur in American history. The ordinance made land available for purchase in an orderly fashion based on size of land and the concept of acre-by-acre purchase. The land system was very organized. A township, the largest unit, was divided into 36 sections and 640 acres, meaning that each section was 6 acres by 6 acres, and each township was 6 sections by 6 sections. Now, the year is 1804. French ruler and master war strategist Napoleon Bonaparte is short on money, no pun intended, and he needs to sell some land to reassert his rule. So that's what he does. He sells nearly 530 million acres of land to the USA for a cool $15 million. This gives France a large economic boost and America plenty of new land to settle. But eventually people got bored. Some people with certain sets of skills that would help them to survive in the wild realized that the Rocky Mountain region was practically theirs for the taking. So they migrated. Aforementioned people assumed the title of mountain men and moved out into the mountains, resorting to basic survival tactics to live out their lives. But not everybody survived the winters, or the wild animals, or the Indians, or a number of other life-threatening hazards. Have you ever been to Florida? Neither have I. But in 1819, we originally received that land. We bought it from Spain for a nicely rounded $5 million. Mexico wants independence! They fought for their liberty, and after a little bit of arguing and a lot of setup and suspense, they ended up getting it without firing a single shot. So now we have a new neighboring country. What might this mean for the USA? Well, more on that later. The trails west. The trails that brought people to settle western land from 4 different locations. There was the Oregon Trail, starting in Independence, Missouri, and ending in Oregon City, and the Mormon Trail, starting in Nauvoo, Illinois, and ending in Salt Lake City. There was also the Santa Fe Trail, also starting in Independence, and ending in, well, Santa Fe, and the California Trail, ending in Sutter's Fort. Another place wants independence! Texas demands their independence from Mexico, and eventually, after a lot of arguing, they also got their freedom, and Texas was inducted into the Union in 1845. "54-40 or fight." This was the slogan that President James K. Polk used to get Americans riled up about the possibility of battle and the alternative, which was a lot of new land. See, we wanted the Oregon country for ourselves in another attempt to reinforce our sea to shining sea goal, and like always, we got what we wanted. And finally, right up to the California gold rush of the mid-1800s. Mr. James Marshall found gold at Sutter's Mill in California, and eventually, 49ers, people who came to California in 1849, found it as well. And the gold rush was a rush. Tons of money. Just a few months to a year away from home, and your family could live in posh prosperity for the rest of their days. Sure, when the gold got low, it was disheartening, and sure, people would end up committing suicide from loneliness and hopelessness, but there was every chance that your husband could return with money abounding. And that is the practical definition of the American dream.